So if you're with a man or maybe a woman that has any Diddy-like qualities, you need to hear this. Someone's fetishes shouldn't control your life. You have likely met people in your life who have escaped the insane entanglements of one of these master manipulators who says that they love you on the one hand while hurting you, disrespecting you with the other. A lot that we think of as sexual abuse or deviant type abuse is more of a domination. It's more of an abuse of power, a domination that reigns over someone's will, their very soul. Sex is just a most common mechanism of these abusers. Others use physical abuse to control, belittle, dominate. It's not so much about getting a thrill of hitting or getting a thrill in that moment of sexual assault, though that is a part of it. It is more the thrill of the total, utter dominance of another human being's personhood. Now, don't come after me for kink shaming in this episode. Basically, when kinky stuff is done right, everybody involved is very happy about the kinky stuff, whatever the flavor of kinky stuff. And they are free and clear, honestly and genuinely, to assert everything that they don't like. They are free and clear to say yes or no, to negotiate and to assert themselves all along the way, before, during, and after. Negotiation is wholly safe and even encouraged. Any kinky stuff that doesn't have the vibe that I just laid out, where you are free and clear to speak up, is likely, if not already, walking towards manipulation. Now, why would anyone want to force another person to have sex that they don't want to have with another person who is also uncomfortable, even if they are a sex worker? These are the types of things, allegedly, we are seeing exposed in the Diddy trial through his longtime girlfriend Cassie's testimony. If you've seen pictures of a almost ready to deliver pregnant woman delivering, that was Cassie, his ex. And these are the things that she alleges she was forced into doing. So here's the truth. This type of abuse with the person who is supposed to be your partner in this life, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, because it happens across all genders. But this type of abuse makes an abuser feel alive. That's really what it does for them. The way a sunrise and its beauty can make an empath cry in overwhelming human joy. For these dark, spirited individuals, whatever made them that way, that's for another episode. But this sort of power and control, it's a result of something being bent, actually kinked in their human condition, in their DNA or their life experience or both. It's actually something twisted, something that went awry somewhere, or a combination of DNA down the bloodline or experience. These are the things that shape us, and they shape us for the good or they shape us for the bad, y'all. Part of my story is that I escaped a Diddy-type character where I was a teen runaway, and I escaped him at 24. And I do mean escaped him, as dramatic as that sounds. I went into hiding. I quit jobs, having 7 the year that I left him, because the moment he found out where I worked, he would start stalking me there, threatening me. I even dropped everything I was carrying and ran once as a white van drove up onto the grass and sidewalk chasing me. I very much was terrified that I'd be abducted and murdered and I'd become a Dateline or 48 Hours true crime special in the end. Now, I was with an abusive man, very much like Diddy, in my first marriage. I finally realized that if I didn't save myself, I would have ended up dead. So I left in the middle of the night with the cliched clothes on my back, never had another phone call or text or social media contact, absolutely nothing. I still have moments that catch my breath, glorious moments that make me almost pinch myself because I'm still here and I am safe and I am whole and I am gloriously loved by my right fit husband now, who produces this very show with me every single week. There are countless men and women all over the world who face themselves in the mirror every day, feeling a bone-deep fear that the person they have tried to love, tried so hard to please, may become the end of them. There are so many ways that we can have the life force of who we are sucked out of us, staying alive while feeling dead and with them. A lot of people won't talk on this topic because it's sticky. They're scared of liability once they open up this conversation on this topic. Also, the algorithms online do not like this, and we get dinged for me saying things like abuse. So there are a lot of reasons why there is limited education on this and limited conversation, despite the true crime aspect being nearly everywhere in our modern world. If you or someone you know is currently in an unhealthy, unsafe relationship, please share this episode with them. Please share the show with them. Please encourage them to get help. If they are open to it, you can drive them to their first therapy appointment or sit with them in it if the therapist is open. So please like and share and spread this comment. It really, really does help reach more people who are searching this type of thing to work those algorithms. And we cannot do that. The listening audience can do that. So thank you. If you would like to listen to the full, unedited version of this episode, you can do so on our podcast by searching for Emotional Badass. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts or check the description for the links. Here's what had to happen for me to finally show up for myself and save me. And hell yeah, it's tough love, y'all. First, I had to accept that it is all on me. In accepting that it is all on me, I was finally willing to look at the truth of things. This is admittedly not fun. This sucks royally. But acceptance sets us up on the freedom path, y'all. Since the beginning of this show, I have said the phrase, there are no white knights. This phrase, there are no white knights, it's not about convincing you that none will come along. It's about not setting yourself up to wait for them while your life goes on by in misery, in chaos, in pain, beating your own head against the wall. It's about getting your own ass in gear in your own life. Nobody else is going to do that for you. And this is the difference between being a child and being an adult. It's not having enough birthdays to say I'm an adult. The essence of a child is that they cannot act in their own best interest. Other forces have control. The essence of being an adult to me must then be. The essence of being adult means I must choose and I must exert my own power over my own life force and my own destiny. There are no white knights. Helped me get my own ass in gear for my own life. You can get out of survival mode, but you can't do it while you stay around the very people who keep you in survival mode. Thriving is available for you. Even if that feels very far away, even if there are parts of you that tell your very own self, nope, Nikki's wrong, that's impossible for me. I am telling you that that is just your critical voice. That is just your human ego vying for things to stay the same because change is scary to the human condition. You can get out of survival mode, but you have to do it for you. Here's another thing I had to accept so that I could actually show up for me in my life. I need to be the sane one. Me saying sanity isn't about blaming anybody or putting fault. This is about ownership and empowerment. I had to get to the place of realizing I am not going to get sanity from the outside in until I start to demand and command sanity from myself. The truth is, when we're with master manipulators, we start to not understand what's real, what's false. We give our power away. We let them make decisions for us because we're trying to keep the peace. And they promise us that if we just let them have power, it'll be peaceful. And that's a lie. So we have to get to a place where we realize I need to act sane, even when I might feel very crazy, very insane. This is a hard thing for a therapist to help someone through if they don't understand the nuances of what these types of abusive relationships actually do to someone's psyche, to their life force, to their worth, to the way that they think inside of their own heads. Here's a thought that helped me find freedom. To stay any longer in this dynamic when I have as much evidence as I do, that he's unwilling to grow, unwilling to change, unwilling to take responsibility, and really only willing to point outwardly and blame me. If I keep staying in this, when I don't really have partnership, I don't have an equal player, I don't have someone who's genuinely working on this. I'm with someone who is determined to live in this level of chaos no matter what they say. When I have that much evidence, if I continue to stay at a point, I have to face I must be the insane one. Again, this was not fun. Nobody wakes up in any given day and goes, I want to have this conversation with myself and take a hard look in the mirror. But if we are to save ourselves, we have to make changes. This is where it starts. So who the hell do we think is going to decide for us that we've had enough abuse? When we're in it with a master manipulator, we actually believe the abuser is going to decide. That's how we give our power away. In having this thought, I could see, oh my goodness, no wonder this feels so crazy. No wonder I feel so lost, confused, exhausted, fried, frazzled, rattled. I have to be the one that decides when I've had enough. Am I really waiting for this person who is treating me terribly? Owning little to nothing, blame shifting, gaslighting. Am I really putting my hope on this person to let me know when I've had enough abuse? Where and when did I learn to give my power away? This is an essential reflection question. Where and when did I learn to give my power away? See, I grew up in a home where to try to keep the narcissist happy, I learned I am always to give my power away. If I try to hold on to my power, I will be shamed. I might be hit. I might be punished. I might be belittled. I might have privileges taken away. I will be yelled at. I will be terrified. I will feel anxious in my body. So I learned, like a smart little obedient girl, to give my power away to abusive people. So what did I do as a young woman? I found a man that would also let me play that out. I didn't cause that in my life, but it sure was my experience. I was so distraught in my thinking and so exhausted that I couldn't really do what is often suggested by the biggest, best, most prolific domestic violence information that's out there. Get a plan together. I could barely plan the next 15 minutes of my life. I couldn't think about what was going to happen next week. I was surviving every single moment. And if you would have looked at me in that moment and said, Nikki, do you feel like you're surviving right now? I would have said, no, I'm fine. I'm okay. Even if I would have burst out crying, I wouldn't have been able to tell you, yes, I understand that I'm surviving, because it was my normal I had been born into. I had always been surviving. So if you're with a man or maybe a woman that has any Diddy-like qualities, you need to hear this. Someone's fetishes shouldn't control your life. Sexual fetishes are to be enjoyed by curious and willing, enjoying participants. And negotiation is always on the table, and discussion of limits and boundaries is made normal and encouraged. There's a reason I'm repeating this. If this isn't happening, you may be being coerced, manipulated, or slid down a slippery slope that ends in a very deep and dark hole. People don't start in that hole. They start in the sunshine. That's why we call it the slippery slope. This type of abuse, when I say a Diddy-type character, all of these things being alleged, it's more nuanced than a forced sex act. It's more nuanced than someone hitting another person. My Diddy-like ex would get into my personal space till I would stumble and fall. He'd pin me against counters and tables, and with spittle flying out of his mouth in rage, he would assure me that he would never hit me. He would never give me the satisfaction of any visible proof that I could ever show anyone. And he delighted in toying with me in such a way because I didn't understand. I didn't understand what he was doing to me. And I deeply did not understand that as an adult in this American country where I have freedoms and rights, that I was choosing because it didn't feel like a choice. It didn't register to me like a choice. But y'all, it really was me choosing because every day I woke up and chose it. I was participating by staying near someone who was making me feel awful, terrible, unsafe. And that is enough. See, there's a bridge that we have to get crossed. Today, I can assert I was being abused. The trickiness there is that the more that professionals try to use terms like narcissism, abuse, sociopathy, SA, domestic violence, people who are in it do not register that that's what's happening. So they can hear your little speech on it They can hear a professional talk about it, and it sounds like, yeah, but that's other people, not me. That's cognitive dissonance. That's denial. When you've been gaslit to believe someone else's truth over your own, you can't take that information in the way that it is intended being sent to you. I was participating in hurting myself because I didn't know any better. And I believed his words over his energy. His words like, I love you. Your family doesn't even show up for you, and I show up for you. You remember when you had that jaw surgery and I filled up the fridge with soft foods and Gatorades? Who else would have done that for you? Nobody. You don't have anybody else. It's hard to argue with. Master manipulators don't try to convince you that you're like a toad or a unicorn or a rhinoceros. You know better. They use the truth to twist you, to scare you, to shred any worth you may already have. Sometimes he wouldn't let me sleep. Hard to think clearly when someone's intentionally exhausting you. He'd rip the covers off of me any time of night, 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. He'd wake me up just to fight. He'd lecture me for hours and not let me go to sleep. At a point, he pressured and ultimately manipulated me into going to nudist activities. And then once I did nudist activities, I actually liked it. I wasn't intimidated or embarrassed or scared, and I thought he'd be happy because I was like, okay, I can do this. I liked the freedom of the nudist events. I liked the kindness of the people there. I liked getting looked at in the face more than I ever had in a New Orleans bar who would stare at cleavage, even with clothes on. Once he realized that he wasn't pressuring me to do something I didn't like, that power, that dominance, that getting off on getting you to get outside of your comfort zone, to let them puppet master you. Once I was okay with it, that took all the fun out of it for him. Then I got called an attention whore and a slut. And boy, did it confuse me. Y'all, it is time for the boundaries course. Setting effective boundaries can be one of the hardest things to achieve, especially if you're generally a kind and caring person. I know that you're out there tending to put other people first. You want other people to be comfortable, but that has often been to your own detriment. I help people find a better balance here. You're always going to want to please other people. You're always going to be a caretaker. The trick is putting you on the top of that list. You cannot help people and you cannot love people with your best if your cup is constantly empty. I've been helping people fill their own cup with this boundaries work for 19 years as a therapist and life coach. I have created this annual online 6-week workshop for helping people just like you overcome these challenges. If you're curious and ready to start healing with boundary work, visit emotionalbadass.com boundaries to learn more or check the description to sign up now. We are officially open for boundaries course signups. As always, Patreon people, you get the biggest discount. Light and love, and look for that code in our Patreon. The hardest footage for me to take in that I've seen through all of the Diddy Trial footage that has been let out, but it was years before this trial started. When Cassie, and I hope if she were to ever hear this, that she would feel supported and not exploited by me. But if she got angry at me, you have a right, and I'm sorry. I'm doing this out of my heart, trying to use your story to help others. But the hardest part for me to watch, allegedly, was one of the videos, not of Cassie in the hallway being beat in that hotel hallway when she was trying to escape. It was when she was on the floor in one of his rooms with the sheets over her head. The hardest footage for me to take in that I've seen through all of the Diddy Trial footage that has been let out, but it was years before this trial started. When Cassie, and I hope if she were to ever hear this, that she would feel supported and not exploited by me. But if she got angry at me, you have a right, and I'm sorry. I'm doing this out of my heart, trying to use your story to help others. But the hardest part for me to watch, allegedly, was one of the videos, not of Cassie in the hallway being beat in that hotel hallway when she was trying to escape. It was when she was on the floor in one of his rooms with the sheets over her head in a ball, because I know how demoralized a human being has to be a full grown-ass adult woman who's trying to get into a small ball under covers on the ground in a small, sad effort. Such a disoriented sort of self-protection attempt. like the inner child trying to pull the covers over her head to keep the under-the-bed monsters from hurting her. You can hear it's choking me up to say it now. I think I could be 95 years old and it might still. It broke my heart for her, for me, for every woman and every man, yes, men, I have worked with you too, who have endured this, that has ever experienced this twisted personality, this wielded power, this sick, demented power that dominates a good-hearted human being. So if you're listening out there and you're being toyed with, tossed around by moods and temperaments and outbursts instead of properly loved, cherished, protected, respected, the question is, what are you going to do about it? For many years now, feminism and the sexual revolutions have pushed mainstreaming and making okay all kinds of open relationship stuff, all kinds of kinky stuff, from voyeurism, cuckolding. Now we have the term hot wifing, swinging. I heard the term this morning I never heard, chem sex, which just means doing drugs while you have sex. I wonder how many people pleasers are out there right now thinking that they're trying to support their loved ones' desires. They're willing to try out their kinks that, are maybe a little outside of their comfort zone, little outside of their realm, but having this conversation with themselves. But you're supposed to stretch yourself, right? When you love. I'm willing to do what my loved one wants me to do. I'll get a little outside of my comfort zone. That's what we do when we love people, right? Maybe it's pushing you into innocence when you don't want to do that. Maybe it's just not your thing and they won't take no for an answer. Maybe it's some kind of voyeuristic something, watching others or being watched, and you think sex should be private and only between the two of you. Maybe you're being pushed into hot wifing, polyamory, swinging, BDSM, non-monogamy, etc., etc., etc. I'm not going to define all those terms today. If you need to know and you don't know, go ask AI, go ask Google, it'll tell you. Healthy, kinky people out there, you are not as healthy as you think you are if you passive-aggressively shame more vanilla sexual desires and practices. Those are just as valid. And kinky people who don't think that's valid, wow, that is hypocritical. Behavior is complex and nuanced and can be on a continuum from uncomfortable or rude, pushy, to manipulative, coercive, neglectful, straight up abusive. Someone wanting to have any kind of open relationship, but wants to neglect having and respecting boundaries, is not acting with maturity or good mental health practices, and maybe abusing the relationship and or the partner. You are your own authority figure, and you must access your own authority to stand in your adultness, to stand in self-respect, to dig deep and be honest about what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do. That is a direct script out of my boundaries course, that in healthy boundaries, I am willing to do this and I am not willing to do this. And we are open to negotiating, not just with another person, but within ourselves. And there is healthy stretching and there is dysfunctional pushing and busting through your edge. There are shades of Diddy-like abuse. And everybody's story, if you're a survivor of such things, is amazingly different, but also amazingly similar. What is very consistent across this type of abuse is it does feel like a game that you're forced to play without getting any of the rules. And as soon as you learn the rules change again. No one gets all the rules, especially the main victims. These abusers tend to have social networks where all people play along. Oh, it's not that bad. Playing along might be minimizing, turning a blind eye. Oh, he means well. He's a little rough. This can seem like manipulators hold magical, mystical powers of making people like them, support them, even when they treat people poorly, even when they treat people like second-class citizens, like pawns. This type of personality, deep down, the emotional, spiritual truth, is that they don't have any friends. No friends. They have people around that they keep around, that they can manipulate or they can use now or later. And if they can't use you, they will throw you away like a tissue. They are amazing at having social circles of people that seem willing to let themselves be used in such a way just to be accepted, not to be put out of this social network. Narcissists are charming. They're fun. Like Diddy, they can throw amazing parties. Another archetype, other than the music mogul, is the archetype of the head football. I'm going to say the head football douche. No, not every football player is a douche. I'll give you that. But the douchebag archetype, the bully, the jock. In the female form, maybe that's the head cheerleader, the queen bee, who's mean in middle school. That's why we have the movies, Mean Girls. They are the people in our human hives that the worker bees, the average people, flock to like a god or royalty. Despite their obvious failings or tyranny, many humans decide to live life under the wing of a bully instead of confronting them, instead of fighting them. They easily convince themselves that their preferred bully or abuser won't really hurt them until they do. The slippery slope is a very real thing in domestic abuse especially. No domestic abuser in the history of domestic abuse has ever shown up on a first date showing those cards. If they would, none of us would fall for it. The slippery slope gets very bad before it gets addressed. If you are in one of these relationships, I believe you feel that even if you are willfully in denial. Are you willing to leave denial behind and get very, very real? Maybe you'd like to give an abuser another year, maybe another decade of your one precious life. You're allowed to do that. You can stay your whole life. Women and men who want to stay. There's so many of you out there, I understand. I wanted to stay and fix it for a long time. I'm a hard worker. I'm dedicated. I'm loyal. I don't give up easily. That's a big part of why I'm still alive. These are the very forces, a master manipulator, puppet masters, to get you to stay, despite the ridiculousness of these relationships. I very much understand and empathize with you wanting to stay. People talk about leaving like all you're doing is leaving the bad stuff, like you're just leaving one single abusive person too. To leave such a relationship really is like flipping the table over of your own life. Just flipping it all upside down in one move. That's true. Therapists out there, we don't do anybody any favors by pretending like this isn't the truth of it. In my opinion, our task is to help people face the hard truths that they face. And this is one of them. It's true. It happened to me. And if you choose to leave, it's likely to happen to you too. You lose friends, sometimes family. I have lost all members of my in-lawed families from both of my divorces. My second husband wasn't Diddy-like, so there were some dysfunctional elements. I've lost friends, family. You may, like me, be forced to go on the actual run. Stay in hiding and look over your shoulder. You may face homelessness. It's normal to feel down and low, energy vampired to absolute exhaustion, because you've been victimized. It's time to acknowledge that. We must acknowledge, I have been victimized, but we must not buy real estate in the victimhood, where the views are awful and the property value plummets and the water is poison. Don't be a victim. Acknowledge that you have been victimized, but don't be a victim. Rise up. Rise. I don't care how you feel. Make your muscles, make your body move. You can rise. No one can make you rise except you. You have no idea what is coming for you in this life. If you're with a manipulator, you may hear that in a dark way. I'm offering it to you in the light. The next season that you face may be hard, and it may be a whole lot of unknown, but this is what will lead you to your after. Thank you for being willing to listen to my story, and thank you for being willing to take the reins of yours. Till next time, take care of yourselves and each other out there. You're worth it. Light and love. I am an emotional badass. You are an emotional badass. And together, we are where Moxie meets mindful. I'll see you right here next time for a brand new episode. Take care out there. Bye-bye.